Author is funded by the Pacific Northwest Writers Association, supporting writers from pen to publication since 1955. To learn more about the PNWA and their yearly conference, please go to pnwa.org. Hi, this is Bill Kenower of Author Magazine, and I'm here at the Pacific Northwest Writers Conference with Stella Cameron. Stella, welcome to Author.
Thank you so much, Bill.
So Stella, I'd like you to think back. You've written 60 books now and counting, published 60 books and counting. Can you remember when the idea that story mattered to you first lit up in your head, that it was something of value to you?
Absolutely. I think, growing up, it's the old sob story, growing up as the lonely kid who found their life in books, in story. It was automatic to me I lived in a story world. I was one of those kids with the imaginary friend that I talked to all the time, and I was constantly telling stories. I lived at the library. I mean, they loved me. Story has always been important to me, and I can, fortunately or unfortunately, even now, I think I live in an alternate universe.
Well, story is the way that we frame what reality is, though. Don't you? I mean, that you make a story of all the things that happen to you. That's how you can narrow the focus in a way. Maybe or not.
Yes and no. Yes and no. I think that we take reality and stretch it to whatever limits we want to stretch it to.
Sure.
And I think that the beauty of fiction is that we move into that other world that we create. And as a reader, I really don't care if the A40 in England is where it's supposed to be. You can put it anywhere. Story is pushing all the limits, and pushing down as well as pushing out. I mean, the depths of the potential for emotion, for instance, that is to me so important. Character and story are one and the same. Without people that you care about, characters must be cared about. So if I don't care about the characters, you're going to know I don't care about the characters. And by extension, they tie into the story. When I'm plotting, so supposedly, whatever that is, a story, I am also delving into character, but I don't do them separately. You're never going to find me doing a little list about what somebody has for breakfast. I really don't care. Whatever it is that I'm writing will bring that out. But story and character is everything to me. And setting. I love setting because that draws all the other elements together, the atmosphere.
I was thinking about you when I saw that it was 60 books that you've written. I don't ask this question, but I know people think it, which is, when will the well go dry? Surely there's a limit to the number of stories this woman can tell. But
no,
you
there
say,
isn't.
No.
No, there isn't.
Explain how that works. The well, what is the well?
The well is just me. Yeah. It's just my mind. There's nothing that I look at that I don't see a story. I think an awful lot of us are telling stories all the time in our heads, whether we're watching other people, which is, I get into a great deal of trouble for. My family absolutely hates it and says, one day somebody's going to complain because you're staring, mother. But I think that tendency to look at people and just little tiny things, the child that catches your attention for whatever reason, and then to spin the tale from there that goes into another part of the tale and another part of the tale. Sometimes I wish I could turn it off. It can be a nuisance in the middle of the night, but it's just there.
And so now here the question is, had you always been doing that, or as the writing bug grew and grew and grew in you, did that tendency evolve and evolve, or do you think you were doing that back when you were a little girl?
I was doing that all of my life.
You were born to do it, really, weren't you? So you took classes, but in a way, you were already born to do what you were taking classes to do.
But does it ever mean, just because you're born to do something, that you don't need to learn certain rudimentaries, that you don't need opportunities to be with other people who are doing the same thing, and to grow and stretch and have the joy of being in the company of other writers? I mean, to me, that is a joy.
You like being in the company of other writers.
I do.
Not all writers do, but you don't feel that crackle of competition?
I've never felt a crackle of competition. Right. I figure that life is a bus, you're getting on and you're getting off, and when somebody gets off, there's another space for somebody else to get on, and it's just, that's the way it goes.
You started your writing career, your career really began in romance, in sort of what they call romantic suspense,
Yes.
I guess. But your writing itself began in what would be called literary short fiction.
Yes.
And so describe the transition from that to romance, which is a big leap, it seems like, but maybe not.
I think it was a huge leap, but I don't think I knew what I was doing. I think, yes, I was writing literary short fiction. I wanted more than anything else to win an Atlantic Prize. I mean, everybody should have an aim, right?
Right.
So I sent them in, they sent them back. But I went to Centrum up in Port Townsend to their annual writers' workshop, and I was there for a week. And I actually worked with Bill Kittredge, was the guy who did Heartland, the movie Heartland years ago. He took me aside at one point, and you had to submit a story. And mine happened to be called Orange Leaves. Very, very fine. Yes. Set in Italy, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I probably had a different kick to its gallop. And Bill took me aside in a one-to-one little thing, and he said, "Stella, I think you need to write commercial fiction." And he said, "You're not insulted, are you?" And I said, "No, I'm just a little surprised that you would just simply say that." And he said, "I'm not talking anything about the writing quality." He said, "I'm just telling you that you are someone who should be writing commercial fiction." And then he told me a little story about himself, which I will not reveal because maybe he doesn't want that revealed or didn't want that revealed or whatever. But that he had, in fact, written Westerns to pay the bills. And, here was this very, very fine literary writer, and he literally changed the way I looked at this whole process. I then had to turn around and start reading the books that supposedly I was supposed to be writing.
And you had not been reading these?
No.
That's unusual.
No.
That is unusual, Stella.
I know it's unusual.
It's very unusual.
And at first I was a little insulted, I thought,
Sure.
Oh my goodness, I'm supposed to. And then I realized the enormous scope of these books and the depth of some of these books.
Did you like them when you started reading them? Did you feel?
I liked some of them.
Yeah.
Others I thought, what absolute.
Right.
Isn't that so with every single
Sure.
genre though?
Yeah.
And then I started to hit on some books that I really admired. And I did some odd things with some books. I would read the front end of a book, the first half, and then see if I could write the whole end of the book to the end, and I would do that. Or I would start reading halfway through and read to the end of the book, which is more difficult, and then write the opening. And I found I could really get into what was happening with these characters. And it's been a tremendous building and learning experience, but I have loved it all. I think I'm very blessed.
So I have one more question for you.
Yes.
And I'd like you to finish the sentence for me. If writing has taught me anything, it has taught me what?
If writing has taught me anything, it's taught me that I have no limits in what I can do with my imagination and what I can accomplish as long as I'm prepared to let myself go and believe. It's taught me to believe in myself. I didn't have that. And now at a basic level, I believe in myself, whereas, yes, I have my moments, but I keep coming back to this and it feels good.